You probably saw the headlines that the Democrat-led state Senate just passed a bill that would put checks on Governor Jay Inslee's emergency power. And you might be thinking, wow, Democrats, you have done something to rein the governor in. However, I think there's been some misinformation out there about what this bill actually does and what it doesn't do. So let's dive into it. The bill is Senate Bill 5909. It was put forth by Democratic State Senator Emily Randall. If you'll recall, we had her on the show.
Folks are interested in clarifying the checks and balances of power.
Now, while it was a good start for a Democrat to not just express support for emergency power reform, but to put their name on a bill, the reality is that the bill in a lot of ways is sort of window dressing. And I discussed this with Senator Randall at the time. There were a lot of Republicans who were expressing their concern that the bill sounded good, but didn't actually do a lot to put checks on the governor's power. What would you say to criticism that this bill does not go far enough?
Well, like we said before, I think this isn't about one particular governor. It's not about the particular governor in office, this particular emergency order. It's about ensuring that in the future, we do have adequate checks and balances.
So let's talk about what Senate Bill 5909 does and does not do. Senate Bill 5909 adds a way for legislative leaders on both sides of the aisle to weigh in on the governor's emergency powers. However, they could only do so after the state of emergency has been in place for more than 90 days, and all four legislative leaders would have to agree to terminate a state of emergency. Legislative leaders represent the four corners of leadership. So that means the ranking Democrat in the House and Senate, and the ranking Republican in the House and Senate. If all four of them are in agreement, they could come together to suspend a state of emergency. But the reality is that's a scenario that's pretty unlikely to happen, especially in today's political climate. In the case of Governor Jay Inslee, it's highly unlikely that Democratic leaders would vote to suspend a state of emergency that he put down. All that Senate Bill 5909 really protects against is a governor who is so bad, a governor who is abusing his power so badly that both parties agree it's time to take it away. Now, it's good, I guess, to have that protection in the event that Washington voters put some lunatic in office, but highly unlikely that this is a check and balance that is ever actually going to be used. However, it does give Democrats a way to say to voters, this is an election year after all, that they voted in favor of emergency power reform. That's why it's important that you, the voter, are educated about what Senate Bill 5909 actually does. And the reality is it doesn't do very much. Now, when I had Senator Emily Randall on the show, she assured me that she was open to talking to her colleagues on both sides of the aisle about ways to make Senate Bill 5909 stronger.
There is a legislative process, and that's part of the beauty of our democracy. There'll be hearings and there'll be chance for amendments. And I look forward to future conversations with my colleagues to pass the strongest and best bill we can.
So in that spirit, Republicans introduced two different amendments that would have dramatically strengthened the oversight powers in 5909.
The underlying bill allows the legislature to do nothing.
People that think that this underlying bill will fix the issues of emergency powers we've been trying to do for the last 2 years will be sorely disappointed.
But when it actually came down to it, Senator Emily Randall, joined by a majority of her Democratic colleagues in the Senate, rejected both of those Republican amendments, leaving Senate Bill 5909 in its original form.
There are 29 yea, 20 nay.
Having received constitutional majority, Senate Bill 5909 is declared passed.
Now, in case you think I have an agenda in saying that this Democrat-backed bill doesn't do much to rein in the governor's emergency power, or a future governor for that matter, just listen to what the governor's office had to say about the passage of Senate Bill 5909. A spokesperson for the governor, Mike Falk, told the Seattle Times, "We're pleased this legislation does not hinder our state's current response to COVID." So even the governor's office recognizes that Senate Bill 5909 doesn't really have a lot of power. So what happens to the bill from here? Well, of course, it needs to pass in the House. And then there's a lot of questions about what happens when it gets to the governor's desk. The governor could veto it. However, the legislature would likely override his veto because this bill does have Democratic support. So ultimately, I do think Senate Bill 5909 will become law, providing what really amounts to a pretty tepid oversight of a governor's emergency power. If you like videos like this, become an Undivided subscriber to support independent journalism. You can do that at patreon.com/undivided or by becoming a contributor on my Locals community, brandycruz.locals.com. Thank you to the founding sponsor of Undivided, 1530 Mortgage. Visit them at 1530mortgage.com.